Let's do it, bro. Good to see you, man. I'm excited to have these conversations now in the public eye. We've had so many conversations behind the scenes, obviously living together and, sharing the same locker room for numerous amounts of years. You've had a crazy journey through baseball, one that I think many people on this call would honestly say that they would take. They would want the journey that you've been on, but I know that your journey has been a lot of ups and downs. And while from the outside, it looks like this glamorous lifestyle. On the inside, there's a lot of things that maybe these guys don't know about that you can kind of shed some light on today. So without further ado, man, if you wouldn't mind just giving me a quick intro for who you are and we'll get started.
Uh, hey everybody, I'm Gray Fenner. I got drafted out of high school to play baseball by the Orioles. I spent 7 years with the Orioles, a short stint with the Cubs, a year with the Giants, and a year with the Yankees. Me and Dela played ball together for what, 5 years probably,
Something like that.
something along those lines. But that's about that's me, short and
Yeah.
sweet.
No, all good, man. So let's take it back to the beginning, man. You were born in Arkansas, grew up in Arkansas area. At what point did you know that baseball was kind of the route for you? And when did
Um,
you really start focusing heavily on it?
Started focusing heavily probably summer going into my 11th grade year.
Okay, junior
Uh,
year.
Yeah,
Yep.
junior year, I
What
was
other sports did you play?
football, baseball, basketball, anything really. Quit playing basketball my 10th grade year and then quit playing football my 11th grade year because of baseball and like situational stuff. Played third base, thought I was going to hit and play third, and we picked up this kid named Austin Riley,
Yeah, he's pretty good.
and there went my third base career. But started pitching a little bit after that. Could threw pretty hard. So after that, I just DH'd and hit, or
And so
DH'd and
when
pitched.
Yeah, and so when you were in high school, you ended up playing on Team USA, but what was the route to get there? What were you doing travel ball wise? Did you play on a travel ball team? Did you just play for your local team? Like what was that experience like for you throughout high school?
Um, Played for my high school team and then played for a team out of Memphis. I don't even think they're around anymore, but it was Doolin's Dodgers. And it was I would say it was kind of like a showcase team, but because we were kind of from all over, didn't really practice much with them. It was kind of do your own thing, show up, we'll play ball on the weekend. But that involved like a lot of tournaments in South Haven. We'd go to the Worldwood Bats in Atlanta. Um, every once I got older, my 11th, 12th grade year, we'd go down to Jupiter for that big showcase every year in October. But for the most part, yeah, it was. I went to Doolin's for hitting and pitching, and then I did like lessons throughout the week on my own, practice on my own, and then we'd show up on the weekends and play. And I think that's something that some people get messed up a little bit. I don't know that it would have mattered who I was playing for at the time. I think that like when you are gonna be or go to that next level, like they'll come to I played on the worst high school team in Arkansas my senior year. I'm probably the only starting pitcher to ever get drafted that didn't win a game as a starter his
Oh
senior year of high
God,
school.
dude. You didn't win a single game in high school your senior year?
0-7.
0-7, dude. Throwing
Yep.
97? You couldn't hit a
Throwing
homer?
97.
Which I'll lose just 1-0.
1-0. Yeah, if I walked a guy, um, my catcher was a freshman and couldn't
Love
really
that.
catch me that good. So he was still in second and third, and they bunt him in, and that was. And yeah, if me or I had one of, there was only two seniors my senior year, and if either one of us didn't, hit a home run or back-to-back doubles, something along those lines, at some point in the game, we weren't very good.
Yeah. So how do you go from playing on the worst high school team to like getting seen and getting this recognition of, Team USA, all the schools that probably were knocking on your door ended up committing to Mississippi State. Like, how does that happen being there? Is it the travel ball scene that you think helped really put you on? Is it the fact that you just threw hard and like word of mouth got around, or like how did you get your name out there?
I think it was more word of mouth, like, oh, there's this kid in Arkansas throwing 95, 96. And
Yeah,
then I
that
started
spreads
to get
fast.
and then I started to get like I got some invitations to like the perfect game stuff. Uh Not their game, but like I guess kind of like a showcase, and I went down there and pitched for them. And after that is really when it kind of took off because that was like my first big thing. And then after I threw down there, I got an invitation to go to Raleigh for the Team USA tryouts, and we spent a week in North Carolina. They split you up into like six different teams, and I played some third and pitched, and then ended up making that cut, which was a 40. There was like 500 kids down there, I think, and they cut it down to
Mm,
40.
damn.
And then after that, we went to Houston, Texas, and had another little tryout with like those 40 guys. They split us up into two teams, and then we played, and then they cut it down to 20 after that. And then we played Team Canada in Houston, and then left to go to Mexico or yeah, La Paz, Mexico.
What what is that what was that time of your
That
life
was
like?
a
Like going through the Team USA trials and trying to figure out, am I good enough? You're this kid who's in the small podunk town of Arkansas, and now here you
yeah,
are
it
playing with the
was
best kids across the country.
really eye opening because not trying to toot my own horn, but kind of like you said, I'm in this little small town in Arkansas, and I'm the best baseball player around me. And
Ever,
then you go,
probably.
yeah,
Probably
and then
ever
you
come out of
go,
that school.
and then you go to something like that, and you're like, wow, there's a lot of me. There's a lot of me roaming around, and kind of puts things into perspective, lets you know that there's always somebody out there that's working as hard as you, if not harder. And everybody wants to get to that point in life where they're playing baseball, either in college at a big D1 or hopefully getting drafted. And it makes waking up every day to go work out and go train and do your bands and your med balls and your plyos and all that stuff a little bit easier because you know that you have to do it because everybody else out there is doing it that wants to be there.
Yeah. So you mentioned your training. What was training like in high school for you? Like when did you, let me ask you this, when did you really start to see the velo tick up for you? Like, is that something that you always had? Were you always somebody who threw relatively hard on your teams, or was it just like one year you really saw this big jump because you started doing something different?
Um, I would say like that sophomore going into junior year, I was lucky enough to be able to take like college classes while I was in high school and they counted for high school credits. So I'd go to college in the morning and be done at 10. And then I would go train with my brother. He's a PT and knows all about, the arm and what needs to happen. And I went from throwing about, I would say 86, 87 to 94, 95 that year. And that was kind of but it was wake up, go to school, go train for 2 hours, go home, eat, go to baseball practice, repeat. And that's kind of when that I would say that's the biggest jump I took.
Yeah. And when people think about that life, like they're like, no, really, like what did you really do? Like you didn't do anything other than just like play baseball. Like you didn't, like there was nothing else going on in your life other than just training for baseball for a year.
Yeah. I mean, that was it. It was wake up, go to school, go work out. And I mean, luckily for me, my sister was at Old Miss playing softball, and I got to watch her process of what like she had to do to get to that level. So I was kind of bred into that lifestyle, I guess, knew what it took, and I always wanted to be better than her.
Yeah.
So like that's probably my 10th grade year. She's playing at Ole Miss and we're playing wiffle ball in the backyard when she's home for the summer. Hits a home run off me and it's like starts chirping me and it's like, you can talk to me when you get an SEC scholarship. So I guess that kind of competitive drive between siblings really kept me going on days that I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, no, that's good, man. You have to have somebody pushing you along the way. I always think that you have to have somebody that you're kind of looking up to and chasing, somebody who's on the same level that you're competing with, and then somebody below you that you're kind of bringing up with you and mentoring along the way. I think people out there would be upset if I didn't ask this question. So you said that your brother was doing some PT stuff with you, and then that year you kind of had this big jump. Like what the hell were y'all doing? Like how do you go from 86 to 94? Like, this is the first time getting into the weight room? Like, was there anything specific in your
I
regimen?
mean,
Like, what were you
I had
doing?
worked out, I'd worked out on my own and like did football, like high school workouts. You go to the field house, everybody works out a team, done that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't say first time in the weight room. I would say like more first time on sports specific training, like doing bands, doing the right arm stretches, and training your scap and core and legs as opposed to just going in the weight room and hitting bench press and doing curls.
Yeah, which we all love to do in high
Yeah,
school because
which
we're too
everybody
good.
loves to do. That's the best part about working out, but that stuff doesn't really equal throwing hard or being
Yeah.
able to move properly.
And how many times a week would you say you were working out during this part of your life?
If I wasn't playing that day, I was working out.
Wow.
So during season, if we had, if we had 3 games that week, I'd work out the day before. I pitched like a light, just kind of get the body moving, make sure everything's feeling good, we're moving right. And then I would throw that next day. And then the day after that would be a heavier lift, kind of like what you see when we're in pro ball
Hmm.
type. I was just lucky enough to get that at an earlier age because that was the world that he lived in. And he was a really good athlete too. And he was going to play at the football at the University of Arkansas and towards ACL his senior year.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so his whole thing with me was, okay, we're going to get your body right and try to prevent injuries. Luckily, I mean, that didn't really pan out in the long run for
I
me.
mean,
Yeah, but like he did the best he did the best he could and just had me on a training routine that when you're young, I think is the best time to be on it because you have so much energy. You can go work out for, an hour and a half or train for an hour and a half and still have enough energy to go play a baseball game.
yeah. Yeah. And so I think when people hear these crazy numbers of like, oh, dude, you threw 97, like you must, be 6'5". Like everybody's, like relatively
Yeah.
though, like you and I, we're
I
not like the
was
biggest people.
six
We're
foot tall, 185 pounds
at 97. Yeah.
at
So
night.
like,
Yeah, 185, 190 pounds.
yeah. And so what is it do you think contributed to like being able to throw such a high velocity at that kind of frame? Was it the
Um,
strength, the
I
the
think it's the
size? Was it the
strength in your
mechanics?
leg and being like, I don't know if it was because I was smaller, I was able to move faster. I don't know if that's because I was strong and small, so I could move quick. I could fire my hips quick. Um, I don't know if it's because always grew up throwing a football or throwing with older kids and just like always long tossing, always trying to like be better than them. And they were, 4 years older than I was.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was part of the situation. I know that um, growing up, I'm not going to say I didn't have a good arm. Like I was throwing 86, 87. But when I got in the weight room at that, 16, 17-year-old age, I really got after it. And that's really when I kind of took off.
Yeah. Explain what long tossing is to you, because I think a lot of kids like, try to long toss, but they don't really know. In my opinion, I haven't really seen a lot of kids play like true long toss. I remember, growing up and my long toss was literally like go as far as you can and I'm gonna try to throw it even further than that. Like I'm
Yep.
gonna really let this thing eat and like I don't know if this is necessarily correct or not, but like I know that there's got to be something to throwing this ball as hard and as far as I can out there. And I think for guys like both you and I, like it contributed to being able to throw hard over the long term of our career.
Yeah.
I just
So
don't
like
see that as much.
if it was a long toss day, I would start at, I'd do my bands, do my plyos, get the ball, just kind of move the arm around at like, 30, 40 feet. And I would always keep air under it, even at that distance to start. And it would be like two throws, maybe 5 yards back. Two more throws, 5 yards back, and we'd work back. I always measured if I was on a baseball field, I'd go pole to pole, at least foul pole to foul pole. And I would get five at the end, full crow hop, everything I could behind it. How far can I throw this baseball? And then after those five, I would go five out of the windup. So no
Mm.
momentum, no nothing. Let's see how fast and how violent I can move my arm. And always just try to keep air under. And then on the way in, I'd do a couple of pull downs. But by the time I usually finished my long toss, I was pretty gassed.
Yeah, I think and I know that you're starting to train some kids out there a little bit too on the side. I think one of the biggest things that I see with kids over here when they're trying to play catch is that they're putting the ball on a line like as they're working back, like they're just popping the guy in the chest, and like they might think that that's like the way to play catch, but no, like it is like you've got to air and easy this thing out as you're going further and further. It should feel so loose until you get to like 180, 190 when you're actually really starting to put some umph into it, and like it really shouldn't be on a line until you're working yourself back in, not working back out. What do you got on
Yeah,
that?
I completely agree. But I like when we were younger, I know I did the same thing. I wanted to throw every ball I could as hard as I could, right, straight line at their chest. But you need to try to take better care of your arm by allowing yourself to keep some air under it, stretch it out, and then when you're coming in, then you start throwing those BBs, those head high line drives at 120, 150, 180
Yeah,
on your way
yeah,
back in after you're
yeah,
nice and loose and hot and everything's feeling good.
yeah. Let me ask you this: was nutrition anything that you ever really thought about deeply when you were in high school, or was it something that just kind of like fell by the wayside and you were just lifting and blessed to be able to have some decent mechanics and some athleticism?
I would say I didn't really think about it, but I don't think I ate terrible. Mom
Yeah.
always cooked dinner, lunch. I'd go to Walmart and pick up a rotisserie chicken and break it down and, just kind of crush that.
Yeah.
I
Those are
never
cheap over
really ate
there.
breakfast, still don't really eat breakfast. Um, but when you're young, I think it's about eating as much like healthy food. Not, I wouldn't even say healthy, but like trying to crush, five or six eggs a day, whether you're drinking them or eating them for breakfast or hard boiling them and eating for dinner, and just trying to get your protein intake as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because at that age, you're not going to eat too much if you're training and you're working out. It's all going to come back and be beneficial for you, especially
Yeah.
during the season, because you're, on a bus. Sure, like these guys are in high school, probably, maybe even a little bit younger. You got a 6 hour car ride for your game that you're the night before, like trying to get some good sleep. And I think the biggest part's staying hydrated when it comes to that. If you can make sure you stay hydrated, that's going to help you a lot.
Dude, it's so hard to stay hydrated on the like on a road trip, on a bus, on a long car ride, man. Like you don't want to
Yeah.
be drinking
You
so much that you're having to stop every 5 minutes to take a piss, but also at the same time, like you have to figure out how do you keep yourself hydrated in order to perform at the highest level, that you can.
Yeah, I think hydration is one of the biggest things that we forget about, especially when we were younger. Like
Yeah.
making sure you've got your water or your Gatorade or whatever it may be, liquid IV, but just making sure you stay hydrated. That's going to allow your body to perform at the highest and best it can.
Yeah, definitely. And so Team USA, you go there, you make the team, like that's awesome. Like just give us quick snapshot of like who's on that team with you. You already mentioned Austin Riley, like who else is out there on that
Um,
team?
Key Bryant Hayes,
Oh, dog,
starting third
starting third
baseman
baseman
for
for the
the
Pirates.
Pirates.
I trained with him down in Houston. Him and his dad is a former pro, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken.
Him, Daz Cameron. So it was Key Bryant's dad and then Mike Cameron, who
Oh
was
God,
also, yeah,
isn't he a Hall of
Mike's
Famer? Is Mike
Cameron's
Cameron a
son
Hall of Famer?
was on that team. Logan, I don't think it's Logan Gilbert. No, it's not the guy for Seattle. Um, Drew Madrigal, the second baseman
Yep.
for I think he's with or was with the Cubs. Or no, Nick Madrigal. That was Nick Madrigal. Luken Baker, first baseman for the Cardinals, was on that
Yeah.
team.
He's a
Um,
dog. TCU guy.
mhm. Eli Marrero, his dad played in the bigs for the Cardinals for a long time. I think he's in Double A for Boston right now. Who else?
Yeah, but some
There, I
dogs.
mean, it
You
was like
stand.
some. There were some units on that team.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Kyle
so
Tucker, I'm pretty sure Kyle Tucker was on that
yeah.
team. Like the more I think about it,
The
it's
more you're like, dude, I played with some
yeah.
dudes.
I mean,
That's awesome,
we
man.
went. I don't. I could go. I'll go get my ring before this is over. I'll run down and grab it real quick. But it's got it on the side. I think we scored like 206 runs and gave up seven on that week. Run ruled everybody. Uh, won the championship and got hit by a hurricane that night. Had to
Oh
stay on a
man,
Mexican military base for like 3 or 4 days. Flew out from La Paz to Tijuana. Or no, took a bus from La Paz to Tijuana and then flew out from Tijuana to LAX on a Mexican AC 130.
love it,
Yeah.
love it.
Like
I
it
know
was a
what that
crazy
travel's like.
experience, but it kept me away from Mexico for a while.
Hey, nothing wrong with Mexico, bro. They pay
No.
good money down there to play baseball.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
telling
for
you, man,
sure.
they
I
got
just don't
good
want to get
baseball down
stuck
there.
on a military base again.
You don't want to get stuck in Mexico, bro. That's for sure. That's for sure. So at that time when you were playing on Team USA, did you have a scholarship offer?
Um, Not at that time. It was because I was older, so I was still like I was on that 18U team, but I was in 11th grade,
Okay.
and I don't think I committed till my senior year to Mississippi State.
So when did the scouts really start like taking notice of you? And
That
what was that process like for you?
the summer slash fall going into my senior year of baseball.
Okay.
So like I played my sophomore, junior year, and then that um my junior year fall, right before I was going to be a senior, I went to Jupiter, Florida, that the tournament in October, and I wasn't even really supposed to pitch. The guy that threw before me for that team was on a pitch count, and they didn't know it, so he only threw like 3 or 4 innings, and then there was like a kid going to UCLA pitching for the other team, and there was a bunch of people there watching. And then I came in and started throwing like 95, 96, and everybody kind of that was that was like my coming out party, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. I think there's so
Nobody
many.
really knew about me till that because that's where like I don't know if anybody's been down there, if you've been down there, there's probably 250 scouts riding around on golf carts just watching every game.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's how a lot of these, stories happen. Um, and I don't know if kids really recognize or feel it until they're in the moment where it's just like most players get seen, or a lot of players, I don't want to say most, but a lot of players get seen just because a scout was there to see somebody else. And then like you just happen to be, playing that same day that that scout's there. And like, that's how you get noticed, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
like
that simple sometimes. Like
I was
you're not
the
even the one they're coming to see.
I was the last kid on my summer ball team to sign or commit with anybody,
Mm.
baseball wise.
And is that due to just lack of interest for a long period of time, or is that due to like you just didn't commit?
That no, that was like Scott. That was like even being offered. I don't know if it might have been because I had always played in Arkansas. Like I didn't have the exposure at a young age. Like I feel like those kids on my team did. I think like we had 15 of our 17 SEC baseball commits on that my summer ball team.
God dang.
Yep. It was like I was Austin Riley, Jake Mangum, who just got called up with Tampa Bay, um, Keegan James, Tristan Barlow, a bunch of guys that played 4 years at Mississippi State. Yeah, I mean, we were stacked.
dude.
And I think me being on that team with them helped those teams eventually see me.
Yeah. And so you have your coming out party, and not only are you getting seen by, colleges, you're getting seen by pro scouts at that point in time. So, walk us through what it was like getting recruited, who was kind of coming your way, how that process went, and then walk us on the college side, and then walk us through like, oh shoot, I might actually have a chance to kind of go this pro route too if I want. Like, what is that like?
So my first visit was to Ole Miss. Sister was playing there. This would have been the beginning of my senior year, and go down there. And I didn't even think about getting drafted at this point. I was just trying to go play college baseball. And we're down there, we're talking to them. We sit down at the end, and their pitching coach, Cliff Godwin at the time, pretty sure he's at ECU now, but he sits us down. He's like, "Yeah, we want to get him here and make sure that he goes to college." And I kind of looked at my parents. My parents kind of looked at me, and we were like, "Well, what do you mean?" He's like, "Oh, he's going to end up getting drafted." And then that was kind of the when that thought first popped up into my head. But went down there, verbally committed, didn't sign anything, and then
You were just like,
after,
yo, I'm happy. I'm happy for any baseball to be in the SEC. I'll take it right now.
yep, um, I didn't go to a bunch of schools. Like I didn't pop around and like go visit. That's one thing I wish I would have done now, being older. I went to Ole Miss for a visit and Mississippi State for a visit, and ended up signing and committing to Mississippi State. But I wish I would have went and seen more of what there was to offer around from the schools that were offering.
Yeah. And what was it about Mississippi State that you know, did it for you over like Ole Miss? Ole Miss is where your sister's at. You kind of got ties into there a little bit. And
Uh,
then all of a sudden, yeah, Mississippi
Friends,
State. Yeah.
I think I said we had 15 SEC commits. 13 of them were going to Mississippi State, and we had all played together since we were in ninth grade. So it was like, well, they might as well just go play with all my boys.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not like Mississippi State's not a good baseball school.
Oh no, they're
Yeah,
good.
it's
Yeah,
great
they're
tradition,
good.
great program.
Yep. And then so you decide to go to Mississippi State, you commit there, you sign your letter of intent, you do all of that fun stuff that comes with, committing to play college baseball. And then what happens? Like how do you go from that to a seventh round pick?
Um, I would say, I guess, a good family advisor at the time. But did that played some more ball my senior year,
In
after
the
high
summer.
school. Yeah, in the
Okay.
summer,
Was that
trying
and that was
to
advised? That was
yeah,
advised to like
trying
get you.
to kind of build my stock up. Uh, Ended up was supposed to go in the second round to the Yankees. They called, they said they were going to take me. Uh, had the whole family over, we're like all, and then they call somebody else's name.
Mm.
So
Do you
everybody
know who?
leaves. I couldn't remember. I should. That's one thing I feel like I probably should, but I think I was just like, what?
Yeah.
Um, so everybody goes home, and I end up calling Mississippi State, and I'm like, hey, I didn't go and today, and if I didn't go today, like I'm coming to
That's day
school.
one.
That was day one, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, End up going in the seventh, they paid me way over slot, so they kind of talked me out of going to school there
Yeah.
at the
Talk to us
time.
about that because I don't think anybody on this call knows like what over slot means or what slot means. And I think that you've got a pretty, from what I can understand and what we've, talked about in the past together and like what I've read online, like you've got a pretty historic contract
Yeah, I think
that
it
doesn't
just
come
got
along every
broken.
day.
I think it just got broken last year in the draft.
Yeah. So walk us through like what happened, how you got there. Because I think a
Um,
lot of people are interested. Everybody's dream is to get drafted out of high school, but some people get drafted out of high school. I had Tucker on here last week, Tucker Baca, who he
mhm.
wasn't signing for anything close to what you're signing for. And it's hard to turn down that type of money that you got right out of high school. So talk to us about that.
So My father is an educator. Started a college, a community college.
Ah,
Now it's a 4-year school. So education was like huge in my family. And like right now, I'm going back to school, taking, 17 hours a semester, trying to grind it out, even though I don't necessarily know if I'll ever need it, but it's gonna, at some point,
pa-
it'll be beneficial.
paid for too by the
Yeah, paid
Orioles.
for by the Orioles. Yep. So my number out of high school, because my parents were so hell bent on me going to college because they knew how good an education is for you, was $1 million. And you don't get $1 million if you don't go in the first two rounds, basically. So the first two rounds go, I don't get drafted. I call Mississippi State, talk to the coaches. I'm like, hey, I'm not going to end up getting what I'm asking for. I'm going to end up coming to school. And they had just bumped my scholarship up because Austin got drafted and signed. So they gave me the rest of his to if we end up me having a full ride. And slot, I think for my pick was 175,000 for seventh round pick, and I ended up making or getting 1 million on the dot. So it
And
would
how
have
does that
been
happen?
they signed some older guys, like seniors in college, in earlier rounds for lower amounts of money, and then can kind of build that up and stack that up, and then were able to pay me later.
And that day, like, just I mean, talk to us through like what getting drafted out of high school for $1 million feels like at that point in time at 18.
I I know that it was an immediate yes from me. My father, me and my father actually got in an argument about it. So surprisingly, whenever because it was kind of like a hey, my agent called and was like, hey, I got to know right now.
Oh yeah, they need to know now.
Yeah, and my dad was at work, mom was at work because everybody was like, okay, well, we're going to college, and that's what it was. So it was the next day, and everybody was at work, and I was just kind of sitting at the house. My agent called me. I just got out of the shower. Luckily, I got out of the shower, or I wouldn't have been able to answer the phone call. But I get out of the shower, phone's ringing, I answer it, and I'm like, heck yeah, like let's do it. And I don't know, I just disbelief maybe might be the right word. Like, is this really happening? Am I dreaming? But that was the emotions I was feeling at that time because I wasn't expecting it. I didn't think, you know, I didn't really know until 2 or 3 months before that I even had a chance to get drafted.
Yeah, it sounds like within 12 months, like literally in a 1 year time span, you went from like, I don't even have a college scholarship to, dude, I just signed for $1 million. I'm going to go live out my dreams of playing professional baseball.
Yeah, I would say that's about the best way to put it. That's probably the time frame that it was in.
Yeah, that's
And
pretty
it was,
insane.
yeah, no, it was awesome. It was a great experience. I loved baseball. All I wanted to do was wake up and go to the ball field. So if that's the personality you have, that's the right lifestyle for you. But if you
Mhm.
can't wake up and go to the baseball field every day, you might want to think about doing something else.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. And then quick question, and then we'll move on to like your kind of like your pro career. Like, what advice, looking back and sitting in the seat that you're at now, would you give, 15, 16-year-old Gray Finner? What are you telling him now to kind of give him a better sense of like what he needs to be doing or what direction he needs to be going in life?
Um, don't put so much pressure on yourself to be perfect. Like just try to be consistent and do your day-to-day stuff like you're supposed to because it eventually is going to pay off. But I think I put
Yeah.
way too much pressure upon myself to try to be perfect that it kind of held me back a little bit
Yeah.
as opposed to just, hey, it's baseball. Go have fun. Go pitch. And if you walk four guys, you walk four guys, man. Like you're going to have bad days. Everybody's got bad days. You can't be
Yeah.
perfect every time you step on the mound.
No, the game's so hard, man. I was just talking to a kid today about just like this exact same thing, and you're struggling. It's just like, bro, it is the hardest game, and it's so easy to just use that as a cop out and a cliche of just like the reason you're sucking is just because the game's hard, but it's just like I don't know what to tell you, man. Sometimes like the baseball gods just don't want you to be good today, and the game is just like taking a turn for worse, and like you just need to be blessed that you're even out here and you have the ability to be out here and that you're healthy and that you
Yep.
get to chance to do it again tomorrow. Like there's not, you don't have to dissect every single piece of your game to figure out why you suck that day. Some days you're just like, I suck today, but I'm just grateful that I got the opportunity to suck today. And I get
Yeah.
the opportunity to come out tomorrow and maybe not suck as much tomorrow.
Yep.
Like
And there's
that's what you
times
want.
you can do everything right and throw a 94-mile-an-hour fastball down and away on the black, and that guy's just going to hit it out
Yeah.
because that's what they get paid to do too. That's what that guy's training to do as well.
Yep.
Baseball
Yep.
is one of those games where you gotta always be here. You can't ever get up here, and you can't get down here. You just no matter what's happening, you got to be right here.
When did you learn that? How long did it take? I know the
Way too
exact
late in
time I
my
learned
career.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
At what
I would
point?
say, probably the last 4 or 5 years I was playing.
Yeah.
Like you can't, if you have a bad day, you got to wake up tomorrow like it never happened. And if you have the best day of your career, you got to wake up tomorrow like it never happened.
Yeah. Let me
Short-term
ask you
memory
this.
loss.
Do you regret? I wouldn't say regret. If you had to go back to high school and you got the opportunity to take $1 million or go to Mississippi State, like, would you still make the same decision knowing what you know now?
Um, if situations were the same, like now with NIL, no.
Without the NIL, without
Yeah.
the NIL, same
Oh,
situation.
100%. I would make the same. I would do the same thing.
Yeah,
I would choose the same. But like now, I would say if you're a high school guy and you don't go first round, go to college.
yeah.
Like unless
Develop.
you're getting, what you think you can't make at school now, because I think schools are like if you were had the option to go to the University of Arkansas or get drafted for, I'd say even like $1.5 million right now, I would go to the University of Arkansas because I think that those types of schools now are way more beneficial than you being in Arizona or Florida playing in the spring,
AZL,
yeah, the
GC. I think it's
AZL or the
FCL now.
GCL, yeah, whatever it is now, because it's so much more one-on-one with coaching and with um, development.
Yeah. I think the games in college, seeing what we saw at that, early level, you spending a couple of years there, me spending a year or two there, the games that I'm watching, Texas play against Georgia today are way more impactful and, pressure um, I guess they have more pressure to them than the game that you're playing on the backfield at 11 a.m. on a freaking Thursday with two people in the stands. It's like
Yep,
you're not developing the same way that you would. And I'm not just saying you have to do that at Texas or an SEC school. Like the games at Lenore Ryan, where I went, had more meaning to them than the game at 11 a.m. on a backfield in pro baseball. Like
a
that's just
hundred
the way
percent.
that it rolls. And so I think that there's a ton of development that's going on at the colleges. Like the amount of money that's being thrown into these programs to help with the development, the facilities, like these facilities at some of these schools, whether you're University of Tampa, D2, Lenore Ryan's got a beautiful facility now. And then obviously these big time, power force schools have these amazing facilities. Like they're just as nice, if not nicer than some of these pro, facilities that these guys are going to. And then once you get shipped off to a, minor league team and affiliate ball, like you're not you're not living a glitz and glamour life. Your weight room is not anything special. The clubhouse isn't anything special, and I'd have to imagine that the majority of D1 baseball, not just high level, but regular D1 baseball, mid major, and anything like that, like they've got better facilities than what these major league teams can offer in affiliate baseball.
Yep. And one thing that really, I think it kind of frustrated both of us when we were playing together is like it was when you're playing in the minor leagues, it's developmental. There's not like a huge emphasis on winning. Like, yeah, we want to win, but like if a guy had to get his work in that day, he's pitching.
Yeah.
It didn't matter the situation or what. And like if you lost, you lost. Luckily, we were on some really good teams when we were coming through.
Winning,
Yeah,
winning.
winning.
You know, that's
Most
always
wins in a
fun.
minor league season.
Yeah, minor league team of the year, man. I'm gonna write that on my resume for the rest of my life. Minor league team of the year 2019. Better than everybody. Love it.
Yep.
Now the last thing I want to talk to you about before I open it up to some questions. I know that we could, I mean, you've had a career in baseball, dude. You've had 10 years of, professional baseball almost. You've got these crazy stories of, signing for $1 million, playing in all, Team USA. We could talk about all this stuff. The one thing I want to talk to you about though is, the darkest probably time in your baseball career so far. Maybe not. There's probably a couple more along the way, having played so long in the minors. But the Tommy John surgery. Where does that put you when I just even bring that up? Like, where does that take you mentally? What was that time period of like for you? You were so young. You had just signed for $1 million, and then within the 12-month span, boom, elbow gone. Like, what does that do to you?
Um, it sucked. I mean,
Yeah,
it was yeah. Uh, and I was coming on like I just got drafted and played my first like half season in the ballpark league or like the complex league. I think I was like averaging 95 and threw up like a 1.6 ERA. Um, come back into camp, you know, when you're young, you always like there's a lot of things you learn as you get older in baseball. Like I was 19 years old, throwing hard, and the
with $1 million
Orioles were
in
not
the
very
bag.
good at the Orioles were not very good at the time. So every time I stepped on the mound, like bullpen or not, I think it was kind of self-inflicted a little bit looking on it now. Like I was trying to throw 100 miles an hour 3 days a week in every bullpen.
Yeah.
And after surgery and after all that, going to the park, squeezing a tennis ball for 3 hours and having to watch all your buddies play ball while you're inside laying on a table is not a lot of fun. And then when season ended, like I think I stayed down there till October or like I think I got to go home right before Halloween, but I was the only person there. So I'd wake up, go to the ball field, work with my trainer, and come home and be confined to a hotel room for the next 10 hours. Probably wasn't very healthy lifestyle either. Didn't have a car, wasn't didn't really know anybody down there because all my friends were gone because the season was over. So it
Just
was
you and
just
that La Quinta, baby.
me and that La Quinta. Know those walls like the back of my hand.
Oh, that's hilarious. For anybody out there that thinks you live in a luxurious place when you get drafted, you do not. They send you to a La Quinta.
Well, not now. They've
That's
got like apartments. There's a lot of
do that.
changes. Yeah,
Good for them. Good for
apartment
them. Yeah, yeah.
complexes.
I know the apartment complexes were a thing. The Twins started to implement that when
Yeah.
we were there. I know that the Tampa Bay Rays just built the apartment complex. They built it. Not the was it the Rays? No, the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays just built their like new
hmm
facility. That
And the Pirates had that sick,
yeah,
um, like
yeah,
on like right there at the field.
yeah. Yeah, so that's some pretty cool stuff. But yeah, so how do you, there's some guys that are going to watch this that, are unfortunately going through Tommy John. What's some advice that you would give to anybody who's got like a really big injury like that, that kind of sets them back and, they're at a low point in their life?
I'd say just keep your head down and do what you're supposed to do because I do feel like I did my rehab the right way, and when I came back, I don't think it was affected me that much. It took me
Good.
to some time once I started pitching again to get like back used to being on the mound and find an arm slot and stuff like that. But as far as like pure skill or ability on the mound, I don't because I took my rehab so serious, I don't think I lost much, if
How
any.
how long did your rehab take? Because I think mine took like in full start to finish. Day I got injured. I remember the date. My date's coming up. My date was April April 6th today. Hey, happy
today.
anniversary to your
Happy
boy.
anniversary.
This is my day that I went into surgery. It took me a full like 15 months from
Yeah, I
start to
was.
finish of like, all right, not and the 15 months means I was pitching in games probably at 13 months and fully done with a season, having ramped back up. Okay, you're good, you're cleared. Not only are you cleared, but you've kind of passed the test along the way to, get back and feel like, we can trust you to go back out there, you're healthy. How long did yours
Um,
take?
I think for me, because I was so young at the time, that there was like no, I don't want to say sense of urgency to like get me back, but there wasn't like a, hey, you're 32 years old. We need to get you back to so you can pitch for a
Yeah.
couple of more years. So I think I want to say it was 18 months before I pitched in a game again.
Mm. A long time, dude. For those that
Hmm.
haven't been away from the game for 18 months, I think one thing that Tommy John taught me was just like the love and the joy
The
of the
love
game,
for the
and
game again, dude.
just like,
Being
bro,
able to get
like
back on that mound and throw a baseball and feel healthy and compete.
I don't know if it's
Nice.
more of that or more of like I just don't want to be in this godforsaken training room any longer, dude. I don't know if it's that, man. Like, God, there's something just about having to go to the training room 7 days a week to do the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over for weeks at a time, where you just feel like you're not getting any progress. You're not even throwing a baseball. You can't see. You're getting
Yeah, you
fat
can't
because like you're
see
not
any
working out.
results.
Like you're
You can't
just
see any results because you're just
uh-uh.
in there and it's so particular that like they say the only way you can really mess up a TJ is if you come back too early. So that's in your head the whole time. So you're like, I gotta make sure that I'm not, ahead of schedule by any means
Yep.
or trying to
Yep.
push that schedule.
Yep. Yep. So let's wrap it all up here before we get into some Q&A. How would you, let me ask you this. What is like the biggest advice would you give to like, high school kids that want to go play at, high level baseball, or, high school kids who want to end up, pitching in as long as you did in the professional league? Like what's something that, you would give to them and say like, hey, you should really think about doing this, or hey, you should really stop, going down this road because this is what happened to me, or whatever it may be.
Um, I think it would be to always try to stay at that midline and always remember that baseball is a humbling sport. So like when you have that best day, don't let everybody else know you had that best day. And when you have your worst day, forget about it. Because if you let that stuff build up one way or the other, you're either going to fall off that cliff or you're never going to be able to get out of that ditch.
Yeah.
And
No,
it's
that's good
all, I
stuff,
would
man.
say that once you get, because if you're at that level, you're working out, you're doing the things you're supposed to be doing, you're doing your maintenance on a day to day. But if you got to keep this thing clear and free because I feel like it's the biggest mountain to climb is keeping your
Yeah.
head right.
You gotta have the right people around you too, man. You can't
Yeah.
have, one, you can't be alone. You can't think that you're gonna do it alone. For some reason, I thought for a while there, like I was like, do it myself. I don't need anybody. Like I'm so self-driven. I'll just get myself there. And then I realized that probably wasn't the right route. And then there's some parts of my career I just feel like I didn't have the right people around me. Not that anybody was like bad or like trying to like hurt me, but like, maybe I had people around me that wanted to go out a little bit more than like maybe I should have been going out, or maybe there were some people who just like didn't take baseball as seriously, and maybe they signed for a little bit more money and they had dreams to do something else outside of baseball, and they were just there just because. There's all different types of people that you meet in baseball. Not everybody's there who's people who get drafted, are there, and like you're just like, why are you so unhappy that you're here at the ball field every day? Like this is crazy. And then that kind of like seeps into you, and you're just like, well, if they're unhappy and they've got all this money, like what chance do I have? So all these things I say to like, you just have to have the right people around you. Guys like who have had on here, Brandon Klein, Percy Gardner, like those are dudes who I wanted to get around. Even like a Hunter Harvey, man. I think Hunter Harvey had a good head on his shoulder. I think both of us, we were the younger of our little group that we kind of hung out with. So we were trying to like definitely pick up, older mentors and just get around dudes who had been at the higher levels. I think for me, I found it just a little bit too late. I think that the group that I came in with, you know, I can't even blame it on them. I think it was just myself. I don't think I was mature enough yet to really realize the value and importance of, playing professional baseball. Once you get drafted, you feel like you're kind of there a little bit. You feel like you kind of made it, but like there's so much more that goes into the day that you get drafted and like getting all the way to the big leagues. Like there's so many different obstacles and hurdles that you have to climb to get to that point. Like getting drafted is almost like the easy part.
Yeah,
Getting
it feels like
getting
it for
from getting
sure.
drafted to the big leagues, like I don't even know, obviously I don't know how to do it. I didn't do it. So like I don't know how to do that. Like that's crazy how much work that goes into it. So I think just having the right people around would be that. So dude, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your life to come share this with us. I'm gonna open it up to some questions for some of the guys who wants to ask. Guys, I know that y'all are on here listening. This is a great time to ask some questions, man. There is no dumb question. I know a lot of you guys, I'm looking at the participant list here. A lot of you guys are in high school right now. Like, dude, ask questions, man. This guy doesn't know college ball. This guy only knows high school and pro baseball, man. This is where y'all are trying to be. This is what y'all are doing right now. Like, there's got to be some questions that y'all have. So, get those firing over to him. If you don't feel comfortable asking them, you can type them in the chat. I'll ask them for you.
Yeah, and I've asked some dumb questions, so don't
Dumb.
like you're not gonna.
How to hold a pitch. What pitches did he throw? You got a baseball on you? If nobody's gonna ask a question, I'll ask a question, dude.
I do not have one up here. I'm upstairs right now.
All good.
Had
I
to
got a
get away
question
from the
for you.
dogs.
I got a question for you, dude. So if y'all don't know, so obviously y'all wouldn't know. We got a catcher here. Let me ask this question first before we get into Jackson's. If y'all don't know, so Gray Finter had one of the best curveballs in, I think, the minor leagues. Is that fair to say? Like in all of the minor leagues, not just the Orioles, but like
Yeah,
in
well, the last year I played with the Yankees, I broke the whiff record with my slider.
with your slider. So you've
Yeah.
had some pretty devastating stuff. I think in 2019, you had a curveball at the time, right? You're rocking a
Hmm.
really big curveball that had a 3,000 RPM. League average was what, 2,700, and you're rocking 3,000. Like, what goes into how are you holding that? How do you hold this baseball
Um,
to throw that?
I was in the horseshoe about just like you were, just a little bit more like turned to the left. Yep. And just dug middle finger dug into that seam. Yeah, like there's pictures of me and I just threw it with that one finger. I didn't
Really,
like
this
because
finger's
there would
off.
be pictures, yeah, there would be pictures of me throwing in game and you could see my finger up. But I always thought it was like everybody always said, hold a baseball like an egg. I did not hold that like an egg. I
No,
put as much pressure as I could between those two guys.
I think it's hold a fastball like an egg. I think when you're talking about your slider, because I had a slider too that I threw pretty much similar to you. I'm really digging into this middle finger right here, and I'm putting a lot
Hmm.
of pressure, and I'm really trying to like feel myself pull on this seam right here.
Yeah, and
And I
everybody's
definitely,
fingers are so like if you look at everybody's not fingers aren't the same. So
yeah,
like you can really manipulate a baseball if you can start rotating it around and finding spots on that baseball where your finger matches the seam. And the more of your finger you can get on that seam, the better, the more late break you're going to be able to get,
yeah,
in my
yeah.
opinion.
All right, we got some questions starting to come in. Thank y'all, really appreciate it. Let me get down here. Let's see here. I think I saw one from Jackson. No, we got one from Dennis right here. So it seems like everyone gets Tommy John. Is there a way to help prevent that?
Mm, I I don't know the answer to that question. I feel like if you throw hard at some point, it's probably gonna happen. I mean, you can do all the prehab that you want, like your bands and your plyo balls and this, that, and the other. I think a lot of it's like a one pitch thing. Like like it just kind of happens on that one pitch. I don't know if it's something that's like I know there are like partial torns and stuff like that, but I think it's kind of one of those things where it just happens.
Yeah.
I don't
So
like because I like to think that I did everything right to try to prevent myself from having Tommy John, and just happened.
Yeah. So for me, Dennis, on my TJ, like it wasn't anything that I was doing wrong or anything like that. Like I just happened to have what's known as like loose bodies, which is just floating particles in my elbow that were starting to chip away at my UCL tendon when I threw, started to rub against it. And from that point, it was just kind of like almost like sawing away at my ligament. And then just through one throw, it happened. And obviously, that's an overtime usage kind of thing, but I don't know if there's anything that I do that prevents these loose bodies that are just floating around in my elbow. Now, there are more, again, preventative ways and more information out there on how to prevent it. But, I think when you look at what's going on in baseball, I think it would be crazy to be like, hey, here's the way to prevent Tommy John. Because if somebody found even a hope and a dream of like preventing Tommy John, and like that's how you're going to do it. Like I think we'd all be shouting it from the rooftop as a baseball community. I just don't think that even at the highest level, the guys in the big leagues have figured it out because if they did, we wouldn't be having the type of epidemic that we're having with the arm. I think a lot of it comes down to youth, and you have to really start from square one and what does the youth arm look like? How much usage is the youth arm getting? And there's so many different ways that you can go about it. You can go about it of like, hey, we don't want to overuse the arm, or hey, we need to get the arm in shape. We need to have it throwing so that it's used to the high pressures and simulations that come with pitching a real time game. I think good mechanics, good sleep, good nutrition, good workout program, like that all plays a huge part in it. But again, there is no hey, this is going to definitely 100% sure fix it. When you look at the science, it does show that, like, you have to be getting sleep, hydration, and nutrition. I think that's the biggest three components that like kids need to be focusing on. And then from there, it's like, am I on a good workout program? Is my body in good shape? And then kind of peeling back into the mechanics of it. So
I
that's a
know
lot of
that
words, but
um, one thing that I felt made my body and arm feel better that I didn't start taking until later in my career was collagen. It's supposed to be extremely good for ligaments and joints. So if that's something you might want to try or do, that would be
yeah.
my advice. That's the only thing, and I'm not going to tell you that's going to prevent it. I'm just going to tell you they kind of forced it down us later in my career because it was so beneficial for ligaments.
Nice. I did not know that. I would do more research into that, but I've seen a lot of college and stuff. Next question right here. I might know who this is. Maybe I don't. We'll see. Who was your favorite catcher that you played with, and what made them stand out from everybody else?
Adley Rutschman.
Yeah, I don't know if he was
Yes.
my favorite because I didn't spend much time with him. I definitely got to throw with him, but like I don't think I've thrown to a better. It'd be crazy for me to say that I've thrown to a better catcher. Like,
My last year with the Yankees, I was with Austin Wells, who is
yeah,
now he was an
big league for the
absolute
Yankees.
unit behind the dish too. I
Yeah,
liked I would say Wells for like our personalities kind of clicked and like I felt like we were always kind of on the same page and he was like a real like competitor and then Rutch was just like so smart
yeah,
behind the dish. Could tell you things that you're like when I because I was younger, a little bit younger than he was at the time, and just like being able to read swings from hitters or what that hitter's doing in the box in the game, it's like he always knew what was going on.
yeah, yeah. I really like throwing to Fajardo too. I think he had a really remember him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he had a really good like
Sense
FU
of
type of. I think he just
yeah,
had an FU mentality of like, dude, we're just gonna attack everybody. Like, we're not gonna,
yep.
twinkle around them. Like we're going right at these dudes, and like trust me, like my pitch calling, I promise you, is better than anything that you're gonna get me. Like he would get upset. He was almost like a Yachty in the minor leagues for us. Like just would get upset if you'd shake him off. Like he just didn't like to be shaken off, and I like that from a catcher.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes maybe I'm not seeing what he's seeing. He probably spent way more time at that point in my life with the scouting reports than I did. Like I wasn't, diving deep into those. And so I think having a catcher that kind of has an understanding of like what you're trying to do and isn't just out there just like calling pitches just for the hell of it, stood out to me for my catchers. Yeah. And then what was your pitch arsenal? What'd you throw?
Four seam, slider, curveball, and a terrible changeup.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I would say
Never
that you were
never
a
really
big,
got the
big
changeup
three
down.
pitch guy, though.
Yeah.
The
I was
slider
a three.
curveball were definitely plus pitches.
Yep. And I threw them like I was probably a 65% off speed guy.
At what point in your career did you switch from like heavy fastball usage to big time off speed guy?
Probably around 19. That
Yeah.
year we had in Delmarva. That was when I really started. Oh, 0-2 or 2-0. Here's a slider for a strike. I felt like I had better command with them, so I started using them more.
And is that from that? Because 2019, I feel like was the first year that we all kind of got introduced to some data. You introduced, Ramsey, who kind of has a knowledge of the game deeper than what we had at that time from a data standpoint. Is that because of the usage, or is that just because like you had seen success with that pitch and you're like, oh, I'm going to give this a try and see what happens?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think it was like analytically, I threw like 50% strikes with my heater, but was throwing like 70% strikes with off speed. So I was like, if it's 0-0 and we got to get ahead of the guy, let's just flip one in there. And then if they haven't seen the fastball till they've got two strikes, then I'm probably going to be all right.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not
That's a
telling you
scary.
to just start bending stuff off at
You
a young
might, bro.
age,
It
but
might.
for me it was beneficial to look at that and see what I threw for strikes and getting ahead early. I think Dayla will attest to this is the biggest part of the at bat. You get a guy 0-1 like 0-2, that punch out comes a little bit easier and they're kind of on their heels in the box trying to play defense as opposed to trying to let one eat.
Yeah. No, the first pitch strike is something that I'm going to really harp on with my guys here in the upcoming season. A lot of things that I've been doing on the pitching side with my guys is breaking up our bullpens into three pitches, and within those three pitches, trying to throw two pitches for a strike. I think that that's something that has to, really be driven home at a young age of just like, dude,
Hmm.
we like I don't care what the fastball looks like. I don't care if your curveball is poopy. I don't care if you don't have a changeup. Like we have to get ahead because it's going to make your life so much easier. It's hard for the hitter to play, offense when he feels like he's on defense. And when you get into those, hitter friendly counts, like, I could still get up in the box and get in a 3-1 count and know that a heater's coming and probably still do some damage. Like
Yeah.
it's tough to pitch unless you start going, your route where, you've got feel for a, secondary pitch that you can flip in there 2-0. And let's be honest, most guys don't, right? Most guys aren't going to be, especially at the high school level, comfortable throwing a 2-0 slider, or let's be honest, their coach, isn't going to
Calling it.
call a 2-0
Yeah.
slider. They're going to call a fastball and you're just going to get ripped. And then you're just going to be like, man, I don't know why I keep getting ripped. And it's like, well, because 70% of your at bats, you're in a, 1-0, 2-0, 2-1 hole. You might have good stuff, but we never get to see it because we just have to keep throwing the fastball here. Yeah, that's tough.
Yep.
What was your favorite career strikeout? You have one?
Like one batter, punchy.
Like one, like one batter, bro.
Uh,
What's the one like when you go through the cycle of like your career and you play the highlight reel in your head, like what's an at bat that you've gotten there? You're like, yeah, could be high school, could be Team USA, could be minor leagues.
well, the one that always comes to mind is um, it was the Under Armour All American game in high school, and me and Austin lived like 20 minutes from each other, probably, but somehow we're on two different teams. And I came in to close that game, and the first batter I faced is my buddy who I've played baseball with for the past 6 or 7 years, and I punched him out.
There you go.
Yeah, just climbed the ladder on heaters, and he knew I had a good slider at the time, so he was like sitting on it because he knew I was going to throw it, but I never did.
Yeah. I'll say
That one
two at
always
bat.
kind of is always in there, and because we were so close.
Yeah. I'll say two at bat. Did you? So one at bat that comes to my head, and I know that you had to have faced him because you were on the team at the same time. For me, was Julio Rodriguez when we played him in West Virginia. Did you pitch
Oh
against
yeah.
him? I think that
Yep.
was, and I didn't really know who he was at the time. He was kind of coming up, and it was just like, here's the, whatever prospect, number one prospect for the Mariners, and it was just like, yo, bro, dude roped me. I'm just like, man, this kid's 19 years old. It's very humbling when you're 24 years old, 25 years old, like I was facing a 19-year-old, and this guy's just like leaps and bounds better than you. You're just like, oh my god. And then the other one that it's a weird one. It was on a backfield, but getting to throw against Tim Beckham Jr. For those that don't know, Tim Beckham Jr. was the first overall pick, not first round, first overall pick. I think in 2000 and like 10 or 9 or something like that. We had him on our team for a little bit. I was coming back from rehab and got to pitch against him. I thought that was pretty cool. Just it was one of those moments where it's just like, yo, I'm here. Like this is the in that year's draft class, this was the best player in the world. And now I'm here on the same field with him getting to throw. And I thought that was a really cool moment for me. Um, one more question here. Let's go. Have you ever had a feeling of thinking you should be moved up in an organization? If so, how did this affect you mentally? I
I'm
can
gonna
answer
plead the
that for
fifth.
you.
I'm gonna plead the fifth.
So, just to give y'all context, Gray Fenter had arguably one of the best seasons that you could have in minor league baseball in 2019. I think you ended with a one something ERA,
1-8.
1.8 ERA, and he pitched on the same level all year. Won pretty much every game that he stepped out on the field for. Um, just never, for some reason, or I don't even know. Like, you want to go into that? Like,
I
I don't
couldn't
even
tell
know.
you why. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know how
Um,
somebody pitches an entire season with a 1.8 in minor league baseball and doesn't get
there were
at
there
that
were I mean
level.
there was what was there, three other starters who got called up that year, I think.
The other soft, there's what, Ofelky,
Knight,
uh,
Blaine Knight got called up
Blaine
that year,
Knight, yep.
and that might have been
And
it.
what did that do? I mean, I know what that did to you mentally. Like I lived with you during that time. Like,
Yeah, I
you
would
know,
say there was some good and bad to come from both of it. There was a lot of well, piss on them. Like,
yeah,
you're not going to call me up. I'm just going to sit down here and show you what I can do. But then there were definitely some nights that it got to me.
and what did you do to like because you still had to go out there and compete. At that point, you're a professional, right? Like
Yeah.
at that
I
point, you're
mean, it was
getting
my
paid
career.
to,
Like, I couldn't just
yeah,
go out there and not compete. My thought process was I'm just going to keep pitching and somebody else will let me pitch for them.
yeah,
If I keep
yeah,
doing
and
good, somebody's going to want me to throw.
yeah, and somebody did.
Yeah.
And then after that year, you were sent on your way. Picked up by what was your progression? You went from the Orioles, and then next was the
Um,
Cubs.
Rule 5 to the Cubs. Went to
And for
spring
those that
training
don't
with
know, can you
them.
explain what the Rule 5 draft is for? I would have to imagine that I would say most of the people on this call or that are going to watch this don't know what the Rule 5 is.
So Rule 5 is after I think it's your fifth year. I think that's why yeah,
Yep.
after your fifth year. Um, if you are not on the 40-man roster for the team that drafted you, there's another draft after the season that allows a team to take you and for you to be on their roster. So that's kind of what happened. I pitched that year and then we had COVID. So it was
Yep.
19 and then didn't get drafted or didn't get Rule 5 after 19. Got Rule 5 after 20 when I hadn't played for a whole year. Uh, Went to the Cubs, pitched in spring training for them, ended up getting because if you don't end up making the team, you'll go back to the original team you were with.
Yeah. So that's the stipulation there. You have to
Yep.
be put
I
on
would have
the
had to
40
make the
man roster.
no, the opening day.
25 man?
You got to
Oh,
be on the
okay.
25 man. So ended up throwing in a game in spring training, threw pretty good. My velo wasn't there because I hadn't been in competition. I think that's kind of what got me. I was like 91, 92, but threw strikes, got 3 outs and like 12 pitches, and then got sent home the next day or sent sent back to the Orioles the next day.
Yeah, that's a crazy life, man.
Yep.
And then from there to the Giants, played with
Yep.
the Giants for a little bit, and then right up into the New York Yankees, played with the Yankees for a little bit, and then just kind of wrap us up. How did it all end for you? People think that like, oh, I'm going to go play professional baseball, and you want to have this good send off, and you want people to know that you left your stamp on the game, but like that's just not how it ends for
No,
most
for
guys. You just
me,
kind of like fade away. Like, what was it like?
I felt like I was really because one of my biggest issues all the way through pro ball was command. And that last year, my last year, I felt like I was really starting to command the strike zone and know where pitches were going. Um, Off to a really good start with the Yankees. And it's like you came. So one of my games, I ended up getting
Yep.
pulled in like the second inning because I was throwing 85, 86. And then about 2 weeks after that, end up completely ripped my lat off the bone and had surgery. And now I'm going back to school and coaching ball.
Yep. Yeah, but it was worth it for you, man. I mean, you had a
Oh
hell of
yeah,
a
I
career, man. Like, I
wouldn't
think every
change any
little
of it.
kid in the world would look at your career and be like, man, that's a really cool career. You got to travel to some really cool places. Obviously, you got to meet some really cool people, play on some really good teams, see really high level baseball. You've been in big league, locker rooms. You've been Rule 5. You've been drafted out of high school. You got your dream offer to go to college. Like, by every sense of the term success, like that's what you are, man. You're a success, whether you made it to the big leagues or not. I want you to hear that from me, man. Like, dude, you're an amazing teammate, amazing ball player. I got to see you at your peak, man. Like, there wasn't a lot of dudes. I mean, you went head to head with, arguably the best pitcher in our organization that year, and number for number outdid him. Like, that's the type of player that you were. So that's awesome, man. You had a hell of a career.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You weren't too
Um,
bad yourself.
Man, I sucked, dude. I sucked, man. I tried to throw. I was like, yo, Felix Batista, never heard of him, bro. I'm trying to throw harder than Felix Batista. I never got out of the throw state for a little bit. It developed a slider. Then your boy got yipped up. That was a whole thing. Oh, that was disgusting. Yipped up at 95. Oh God, hate to be a batter on the other team. But no, I appreciate that. Ended up having a pretty good year career myself. What clicked to make your control get to the next level that season? What do you think your
Um,
your control was?
and this is kind of like so I don't even want to say like cookie cutter, but like simple is in spring training, my last year with the Yankees, we had like if you threw a bullpen, you had to go back through and they have TrackMan and video of every pitch you throw. So like you would go back through and watch your bullpen and track where you were trying to actually throw the ball and where it ended up. So after doing that for a whole month and a half in spring training, by the time I went through and like watched and did all that stuff, I knew in my head, okay, if I'm trying to throw a fastball up and in, I usually miss roughly 3 or 4 balls to the left. So I would just move my eyes 3 or 4 balls that way. And
Yeah.
that's one thing that I preach to all the kids I'm giving lessons to now is like, you got to trust your eyes and like trust your stuff. Like pick a spot and throw the ball to that spot because you know you usually miss here. And eventually, after you do that for long enough, you kind of can start dialing that in a little bit.
Yeah, because most pitches, I mean, I just got on the Rapsodo, today, or I got a Rapsodo. I think I told you. Did I tell you that?
Hmm.
Yeah, about Rapsodo. And so you can really see your pitch profiles, and you can really see like, oh, your pitches are pretty consistently in the same spot. If you're dialed in, right? If you're a high school guy, maybe you're figuring out your pitches and they're pretty inconsistent. But like for guys like you and I, like you've got pretty consistent. Every time you throw a slider, it's gonna break this amount of inches and drop this amount of inches. Every time you throw a fastball, typically it's gonna run this amount to the arm side, have this amount of vertical break. And once you kind of get your pitches dialed in, you've got the consistency of like what that shape is, you're right. Like it's just trusting your eyes. It's, hey, I throw my slider at this dude's front hip to get it to break over the plate, and I throw it, off his back hip to get it to break over, outside. Like it's just
Yep.
doing that over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. And then
Um,
eventually you start to figure it out. and you just got to trust it.
Yeah.
And that gets back to being what I said earlier is like you can't try to be too perfect with it either. Like you don't have to throw a perfect slider down and away. If you miss two balls up and two balls in, like it's still a pretty good pitch and you're probably gonna be all right.
Yeah, man. The average, I always love bringing this point up. Like the average big league miss is like 8 to 12 inches. I can't remember. It's somewhere in that range.
Yeah,
Dudes aren't perfect. I mean, so if you're a high schooler and you're expecting to be better than that, like,
yeah. And I
you're
might
setting
be
yourself up for
wrong
failure.
about this, but I don't think that I am because it was one of those things that was kind of harped on me. But guess the average strike percentage from big league pitcher.
I would say right now, in what year? Like right now,
This would have been in 2024 or 2023.
average. We're talking
Major league
all
average. Major league
across the
average
board,
strike percentage.
starters,
Yep.
relievers. I'm gonna go 57%.
58 and a half.
Oh, I'm good.
That's but like when you start thinking about that, that's like that's not that good. Like
No. I mean, I'm
you're
always trying to get guys to get it to 65. 65% is like kind of the
yeah.
threshold that I want dudes to get to.
And I try to tell this to my young kids. It's like, look, if they're doing it 58% of the time, like don't be mad at yourself or get so frustrated when you throw two balls back to back. Because then you get
No.
frustrated and then the third and fourth and fifth one come.
Yeah. Man,
As
I was talking
opposed to
to a kid
just trusting
today.
yourself.
I was talking to a kid today and I was like, dude, I was watching a big league game last night. The guy walked two dudes. It's just like, this is a dude who's in the big leagues walking dudes. Like, you can't be upset that you're walking dudes in high school. Like, you're gonna
It's gonna
walk dudes for the
happen.
rest of your life. Like it's just
Yeah.
gonna, yeah, it's gonna happen. It's about how do you respond from those walks. Obviously you can't walk walk everybody, but it's definitely something that's gonna be a part of your life for as long as you pitch. You're not just gonna suddenly wake up one day and like you're just not gonna walk dudes.
Yeah, no,
Like,
that's
or
not how it
unless you're
works.
2019 fencer. How many people did you walk that year?
Not many.
God, what was I'm gonna pull it up real quick and we'll end on that, dude. 2019 fencer stats are nuts. Um, Gray Fenter. 1 second here.
I'm
I just want
sure
to
I
know the
still have
strike.
my fair share.
I know. I just want to know the strikeout to walk percentage in 2019. You struck out. You struck out that year in 94 innings. You struck out 123 people, and you walked 43. All right, I thought you walked less. For some reason, I thought you walked like 12.
Hmm.
But 43 and 123, man, that's a pretty good 3-to-1 walk ratio right there. We'll take that all day, twice on Sundays. Love it. Good whip right there, too. 1.1. Beautiful stats. Crazy season. Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on here and talking to the guys. Is there any last closing words that you want? I think kind of
Just
already
keep your head
addressed
up,
all
dude.
that.
Yeah, if you're struggling, it's baseball. Wake up the next day, go back to the park, get after it.
Have some fun.
Yeah, have some. Yeah, and don't forget you're playing a game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you, dude. We'll be in touch soon. Can't wait to see you at the wedding. And we'll get it going from there.
appreciate it. Have a
All
good
right.
one.
All right, fellas. Thank y'all. You still in here? Let's wait a bit. Oh, he's out.